We're going to call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. on December 4th. This is the regularly scheduled Newfane Selectboard meeting at the Newfane Town offices. Attending tonight are Mike Fitzpatrick, Chris Williams, Marion Dowling, and I'm Gary Delius, the Vice Chair. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
You had two.
I have two. There are two items that I would like to add to the agenda. One is we received an email from Dan DeWalt regarding a conference or a service that can be provided to us who do some work on maybe some of the things that are going on internally that some of us didn't know anything about. And I think maybe we should consider that a little later in the meeting and talk about it and see if we want to schedule that with Dan. And then we also need to set the schedule so we can finish up the budget meetings or begin and run through the budget meetings. If those are okay, entertain the motion.
I make a motion to accept those changes or amendments to the agenda.
Okay.
Additions,
Okay.
rather, sorry.
Got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And it's 4-0-0. And the next on the agenda are the minutes from the November 20th special meeting. And those should be in your packet. Does anyone have additions, deletions, or changes to those minutes? None being, entertain the motion.
I make a motion to accept the minutes for the special meeting that was held on November 20th.
I have a motion from Marion. Do I have a second? Chris has a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed the same? Okay, 4-0-0. Next will be the regular meeting, November 20th. Any changes, additions to those minutes?
Make a motion to accept them.
Got a motion from Chris to accept? I'm sorry, Mike. to
I'll second
accept, and Chris is going to second. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed the same, 4-0-0. Road foreman and road commissioners report.
So the new radios are being installed and should be completed tomorrow. And the old radios, Shannon has listed for sale, and we hope to get rid of them soon so they don't hang around the garage. So hopefully somebody will have some interest in them. The soil berm is still on Baker Brook Road in the town right away. The new pickup has arrived and is put into service. The contractors that are making the storm repairs are making good progress. Hunter Brook is wrapped up, and Mike's on Adams Hill, and Basin is on Holcomb Road. We're trying out a rubber-tired excavator for all the extensive ditch work that's going to need to be completed over the next few years for the stormwater laws. The River Road Bridge was open today, and the old 09 Sterling came back from Twin State today after having manifold gaskets replaced. And I talked with him briefly. He seemed to think the smell was slightly reduced, still not gone, but a little better. So we're hoping that it'll be enough so we can use it this winter anyways.
So let the record show, River Road Bridge is now open, and for all the citizens who have been worried about and concerned about and wanting to cross River Road Bridge, you may now do so. Thank you, Jay, for that.
Thank you.
Any
How's the
discussion?
excavator didn't work out, Jay, for you?
Takes some getting used to, but now they seem to be doing well with it.
Yeah.
A lot better reach than the backhoe had, and a lot faster to move around, load the trucks and so forth.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good piece of equipment to get to town and stuff.
We're going to discuss it.
Huh?
We're going to be discussing it.
You could do a lot of work that
Well, see, this
needs to be done on the roads and the ditching and everything.
So she came.
Like you said, all that gravel is out in the woods.
Right.
Yeah.
And this berm has nothing to do with that. But
So Chris is telling me that the berm, first of all, let's get a motion on to accept,
Make a motion to accept it.
okay? Mike's got a motion? Got a second?
I second.
And Marion's got the second. All right, so let's go into discussion. Chris is telling me that the soil berm on Baker Brook Road is not the same as what we're going to be discussing later on in the meeting, and have been discussing for a while.
Well, you had written a letter about that too.
Yes.
Yep, that's the same. The soil berm is the same as what Shannon wrote the original letter about.
Okay. So what you were thinking?
And then there's another issue with that the river engineer is working on.
Oh, yeah, that's a separate issue.
That's a separate
that
thing, yep.
I have.
But there's one issue that a lawyer was gonna look into.
Oh,
Yeah.
the response letter.
Yeah,
And
Matt?
I don't have anything to report on that, but
all right,
I'll tell you
okay.
about it.
That solves all that.
That's coming later on in the meeting. Okay. I did see the road foreman out in a new truck the other day. He looked quite handsome in it, and it looks like a beautiful piece of equipment. The signs haven't gone on it yet, nor the lights, but look good.
Eventually, yep. Toolboxes are still pretty empty, but we'll get those filled.
Good. Your chainsaws will be in there soon.
Yep.
Any further discussion on the road commissioner report? Entertain a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed the same. 4-0-0. Next item up is the access permit. We have an access permit for access for a right-of-way from Tom Dolan in Newfane, Box 51. The property is located on South Wardsboro Road. Change in existing access, it's a residential change. And Chris and Jay, you've been out and looked at it. Do you have any questions, concerns?
Very straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that he doesn't need, that most of them need, he does not need a culvert there,
Okay.
because there's no place for the water to run if you put one in.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to accept that.
Marion has a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I understand that the $50 fee has not yet been collected on this, so the motion would be, or approval would be subject to the $50 fee. Anything further on it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed the same. And that's 4-0-0. Administrative assistance report.
Okay. The town office sign has been completed and was delivered on Friday. It's behind you, but it's covered in plastic, so you can't see it very well. It came out really well.
It does look good.
It does. Looks great.
Take our word for it. Quite lovely.
All the grant applications were submitted by the deadlines, and we should start hearing back in January on all the different ones.
Good.
So, that's good. I was contacted by a representative of a landowner on Baker Brook Road, seeking sponsorship from the town for the emergency watershed program. And there are, this program would assist landowners whose properties have been affected by storm damage. And it's funded through USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. Should the town decide to sponsor that program, it's no cost to the town other than the time for a representative of the town to go visit the site. And that's the only thing that the town has to commit to. There are also 2 other landowners that I can think of off the top of my head that had damage in the last storm that might be able to benefit. And so it would be the same sponsorship for all the landowners. So I would ask that the board consider sponsoring the program.
Could you maybe get us something from USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service to explain?
Yeah, actually, I have something here. Yep. So if you this email states that the only obligation the town has is to have someone go visit the site.
So this needs to be in 60 days from the event. We're talking about the October.
60 days, yeah, so we would have to decide before the end of December
Okay.
if we wanted to sponsor it or not.
If the town's not involved, they can't get it still.
Correct.
So this is pretty much like the whole thing with the lighthouse before and stuff like that.
You remember the program?
Where they went around fixing up behind houses and all that
Yes,
stuff.
it's
right?
the same program.
But they won't approve anything that's spent prior to the grant approval.
Correct.
So we would need to approve participation in the program before the landowners start to do any work.
Now, the only thing I've got to say about this is, there was work done places during Irene that was not supposed to be done the way it was done on Baker Brook. And the Water Resources was not very happy about it. But the people just went ahead and did what they felt like doing anyway. And I could foresee something like this doing the same thing again.
I mean, with this, it all has to go out to bid and everything like that too, right? But it's all federal money, so I mean, it would have to go out, and it'd also have to have all the permits to the water resources and everything, right?
That's correct.
I mean, I can see that, I mean, I'm in favor as long as the town has to be involved in it like that, it's just like they were last time. As long as everything's done the way it's supposed to, like Chris said, it's not just
Yeah.
somebody thinks they can go ahead and do it just because we're involved.
You're looking for action?
Yeah, the other,
It'd be more than a representative, wouldn't it? Because you'd really have to handle it through the office, right?
Gloria was in charge of it last time because I was busy with the FEMA
Right.
and hazard mitigation, so I didn't have a lot of involvement with it. But I do think she ran the bidding, and of course
Yeah.
the select board still
As I say, it's
approved the
ran through the
bids.
office, it's not run through the homeowner.
Exactly, yeah,
Right.
so I would still be doing all the bidding and
Right. I
everything.
mean, it's quite a lot to it, it's more than just
Right.
being involved, I mean, it's,
Right. So, the other thing is that the funding is very slim. So even if the town says, okay, we don't mind sponsoring it, it's probably gonna get put on a waiting list. And it could be a year or 2 years before, anything happens.
Jay, do you have any thoughts?
I'm not familiar with how it worked last time, so no, I don't have any ideas.
So
well, what how it worked last time too, I know is the funding came from that outfit too, I can't, what the hell was the name, was it Sifka?
USDA,
Sifka or something like that, yeah.
yeah.
The owner had to pay 10% of the cost and then people paid the rest of it. But all, you know, all the bidding and everything all went right through us.
Yeah, so I guess in that there is a cost to the town and, time.
entertain a motion?
I'd make a motion we sponsor.
Okay, got a
A
motion
second.
from Mike,
A second.
second from Marion. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same. And it passes 4-0-0.
The radar sign that we ordered has arrived. Jay picked it up today, and Dover has offered to help the town install them, and
set up the program.
set up the programming and learn how to use them. We received a letter from Maureen Albert Piasek requesting that the town cut down a tree that's on her property in the town right of way. I contacted VLCT on Friday and left a message for them asking sort of for guidance on whose responsibility it is to fund that cutting down of the tree. And I have not heard back from them, but the letter is in the correspondence for later for
Okay.
your review.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
So we'll save that till we get to that point.
Yep.
Okay.
And then just on the Baker Brook Road issue with the response that we received to our letter, Rich Carroll hasn't gotten back to me yet, so I don't really have much to report on that.
So that clears the item on the Baker Brook Road.
Yep,
You sure?
that means we can skip that one.
Meeting just got shorter. Motion to accept?
I accept.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Fine. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed, the same? Carries 400. Unscheduled members of the public. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Look like we'll be skipping over unscheduled members of the public. New business. First item is select board vacancy. I think we all received a letter from Carol.
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
I don't see one here in any of this stuff.
It was stuck in my folder. Sorry.
Did you get it? Okay. So Carol asked the letter not be read publicly. Long and short is Carol has stepped down from her position on the select board for a number of reasons. Primarily is health and stress, and that she needs to be looking at other things in her life. So I think probably the next thing is a motion to accept her resignation.
I motion to accept Carol's resignation.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to accept Carol's resignation. Is there discussion? I think we should make sure that we send Carol a heartfelt letter thanking her for her service, and that we really appreciate the passion that she put into what she was trying to accomplish. She did set us on the right path, sorts of things that have been overlooked for a number of years. And I think that will be of great benefit to the town in the future.
I did write an email to Carol a day after I received hers, telling her that I was very shocked and saddened to hear that she was resigning, and that she had been a very committed member of Select Board. And that I had told her several times in the 2.5 years that she's worked here on Select Board and also been the chairman, that she was doing a good job, and that I personally will miss her. I wish her all the best in her health, and my wish would have been that she reconsider and not resign, but I have to accept that she is resigning, and I'm very sorry about it.
Yeah, I talked to her too.
You wrote to her?
Yeah. Well, you know, that's people to do what they want to do, I guess, yeah.
Yep. We all just have so much time and energy. And we got a great deal out of Carol while she was here. She did a wonderful job for the town, but I understand that it's a time for her that she needs to be considering other things. So we have a motion and a second to accept the letter. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes 4-0-0. So that then brings up the task of finding a replacement. So I believe we have a process for this, since we've been through it before, to find other people who wish to step in for the 3 months which remain in Carol's term. So we would be posting these in all the regular places.
Yeah, it is up on the website, but I'll put it around as well.
Okay, and on front page Forum perhaps?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you run into any people who have sat on the board before who might be interested or who are good candidates for preparing to go for the board, I think it'd be great to encourage them to let us know their interest.
And maybe to call Shannon to let them know.
Yes, contact Shannon.
Yeah.
Is there, did we set a time to?
Soon.
Okay. Sooner is better than later.
Do you want to discuss the chair?
Yes,
Because I think this is your last regular meeting,
that's correct.
so that leaves a problem.
It does. I will be traveling from to take care of a friend in out west from December 15th until the 1st of April. I will be Skyping into the regular meetings, but that would not make it possible to be able to run a meeting, because you need to be able to see the folks in the audience and see the smiles on their faces or the whites of their eyes. And that would not be fair to try to do that on a camera. So I think we need to look at somebody to step in as chair for the next 3 months, and until that we get town meeting out of the way and get a new person and do the reorganization right after town meeting. I'll be happy to serve as vice chair, but I think we do need somebody who can do a better job of being here at the meetings and serving as chair.
I don't know, guess it's something I'd have to think about.
Okay?
I'm not. That's not for me. I've not got the personality for it, I guess, would probably be a proper thing to say.
I would be willing to step in for a short time if needed.
Okay.
Mike would do.
I'm not sure. If I did, I probably wouldn't know what the camera do.
Well, unfortunately,
Is that my choice?
the public needs to be able to see us, warts and all. So,
Looks like Marion's it then.
do we have a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion, Marion serves as chair for them.
Okay, have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any
Yes.
further nominations?
I'll need help. Sitting here and listening to the Robert's Rules of Orders being spoken, I've learned, some things, but I still need coaching. And I did say that to Shannon the other day when we were talking about whomever would take over.
Yeah. I'm happy to help you.
Yeah. So I'll do it shortly.
Well,
Thank you.
could you be more specific about what you guys were period? And the term is
Till
runs out
March,
until,
you're saying.
till March, yes,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Nominations there, all in favor say aye. And opposed? So it's 4-0. Congratulations, madam. Do you want to take over now, or do you
No.
want
I think you're doing a very good job.
to? Okay, so we have a new chair, and if it's a request of the board or the privilege of the board, I'll be happy to continue to serve as vice chair.
That would be great.
All right, next item on the agenda is, this is the added item to discuss Dan DeWalt's restorative justice email. I've heard back from 2 board members in Shannon who would be willing to do a restorative circle conference. This would be fine, and if there are no more takers, I will proceed with those 3. But first, I would like to explain the process a little more so that anyone else who may see a benefit can join in. First, I interview each person on their own. I ask the following questions. What happened in the incident or situation that led to the misunderstanding? What were you thinking at the time, and what do you think about it now? What were you feeling at the time, and how do you feel about it now? What do you think has been affected by your actions? What is the hardest thing for you? As you notice, these are all questions that only can answer for yourself when we get together. I ask those same questions to each of you while everyone else listens. Then we ask what people need to repair any damage for the relationship involved, and we find agreement. If more than 2 board members want to participate, I would suggest warning a special meeting for personnel purposes. I think that based on Carol's leading and some misunderstandings that may have occurred along that process, I think this would probably be a good healing process to go through.
I just don't understand what's it all about.
I don't either.
Yeah.
That's what I can't figure out. What's the problem? And the only problem, I don't know of any real problem. The only thing we've been discussing is the job description.
Yep.
Other than that, is there a problem with everybody else around the board or something? That we gotta have a healer come in?
As I said,
I can't see, I don't know what the hell the problem is. That's what I can't
I don't
see.
either. I don't understand that at all.
I think that from what I gathered from Carol, this mostly happened while I was out on sick leave. But there were some discussions about the job description and about the process of going through that back and forth, and there were some problems, hard feelings created during that process. If anyone has more specifics than that, I think that...
Now, can I say that for you?
Sure.
I think one of the things, first of all, is that Dan is saying that he had heard back from 2 board members and Shannon. So the board members he heard back from were Carol and myself and me, and Shannon said she would. And so I don't think that there are real, major problems, but when I got this from Dan, I was interested because I think, from my point of view, it's always helpful if we're going through things and we're in a group together, that sometimes there is tension or stress. And I think...
I have that every damn day at work.
So...
I don't need a counselor to come
I
see me,
know.
but that's what I say, nobody agrees on everything all the time
Right.
either, that's why, it ain't like we got into no fist fights here or anything like that,
Right.
so I can't understand the real problem,
Well, I have felt during my tenure on the board that we've been a really good board. And that does include sometimes not agreeing on things. I would not have gone out to seek this, but when Dan offered it, I thought, well, that could be a good thing. But right now, it's just one member, which was me and Shannon. And unless we do it, in my opinion, unless we do it as a group, I don't think and you're leaving.
Well, I can still Skype in though. I would be happy to participate. As I said, didn't really know what the issue was, but if there was an issue and people have been hurt by that issue, I'm more than happy to work on getting it fixed. I want to see us be able, I want everyone here to feel like they are respected and that the process is there for their benefit and that the work that we're trying to accomplish is for the town of Newfane and its employees and there are no ulterior motives. So if doing a restorative justice session would help with that, I'll be happy to be here. I don't care.
I don't think it's counseling. I happen to volunteer.
I mean, I guess if I ever went, I'd just like to see what the hell the real problem is. Other than that, you know, I mean, I can't see it. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
who got it all together at the beginning anyways? Who started
oh,
this?
I have no idea.
Dan started it because he had read some things in the newspaper that had him concerned. And
Like
so
what?
just that article in the Commons about Wyndham Solid Waste, which is unfortunate that the Commons does it so late because it was a month after that meeting even happened. So people find out about things much later. And I thought it had all been resolved, but
Yeah, I'm not interested.
I'm not either.
Okay. So why don't we just say, I mean, this is my opinion, why don't we just say that, first of all, thank you, Dan, very much for offering your services. And we can keep it in mind, and perhaps this is not the time that enough of us can participate or want to. Unless you have, what do you think, Shannon? Because you also were interested as I was.
yeah, I was interested. And if others aren't, that's fine. It doesn't matter. But I think one of the biggest things is that direct communication seems to have been sort of an issue in recent months. And there's a lot of rumors going around. So, you know, people get phone calls saying so-and-so said this about you and, you know, you're down the road and you're getting fired. So there has been hurt occurring, but I don't think it's necessarily direct hurt. I think it's, you know.
I don't think any of us said anything about firing you.
No, and I'm not saying you did.
If we had it, we wouldn't have had a third party tell us.
Exactly. So I think a lot of the damage that's been done has been not done by the select board, but, you know, by,
I mean, you can have rumors all the friggin' time, just like I said. I mean, you did that, you'd be counseled every friggin' day, you know. So I mean, it's, I mean, that's what we're trying to figure out. That's what we're trying to work. I mean, just like this whole administrative thing. That's the only last one I know of. And it's just been lingering on and on. And I mean, other than that, there's no other issue.
Right.
I mean, we had the one from the 2012, and when we asked if anybody had a problem with it, no one had a problem with Shannon that night, right? Then you wrote up one to go through it, and I think everybody's taken that and revised it, right?
Well, on the job description, we took the information that Shannon had put in, we took the information that Carol had put in, and then we merged those two together along with other information, and that's what you see before you. And so we're probably ready to go into that if we don't have any other action on this issue for Dan. Okay. All right, so next item. Recycling survey draft. So we have a survey for residents and taxpayers to give us feedback to the select board on preferences for dealing for recycling and or waste disposal. This is following up on the solid waste management district's recycling bins being removed as of July 1, 2017. And that the town is considering 5 options. And what we're asking people to do is to, on the back sheet, give us their feedback on what their interest is. Now Shannon has already been cataloging feedback that came in from Front Page Forum by mail or by email.
Yeah.
So we have that information, but that's pretty much just incidental.
Is there another copy of that?
This, that one. So, this is to find out, do we want to do this survey and try to get an objective view of across the property owner base to see how many people are interested in what options, to give us some final guidance as we go into the budget cycle, to make a final decision, make back to the town meeting to go take the next step with recycling. And the cost for doing this, did you put together costs?
No, the planning commission just recently did one, and they spent
Yeah.
very little money. They handed it out, put it at businesses and post offices. So they really didn't have any cost, but they're getting a really good turnout.
Good.
And they're online too. They did the Survey Monkey, which
Mhm.
I can also set that up, and that's free. You don't have to pay. So they're getting a lot of responses that way too.
This is an issue that we've been struggling with. And we've heard a lot from, anecdotally, from people who say, I like it is, no, I want it to be different, I want to do this, I want to do that. This would give us something quantitative that would allow us then to say, okay, this is what the majority of people want to do, and we can move toward that without feeling like we're going to step on somebody's toes, or we're not going to consider a certain group of people.
Do we have a date by which we would want the survey to be,
We
surveys to
can
be?
add that. This is my draft that
Yeah.
is just for you guys to
Discussion.
review and
Mhm.
give suggestions, and that's a really good one.
So I think if we could get this out in the next couple of weeks and then wait for feedback through the end of the year, we've still got time to act before town meeting.
Do you
Well-
have a date that you'd like it
Well,
Out by,
hereby?
back here by? December 30 or December 29? Let's say December 31st, so it's easier for people to remember. That's on a Sunday.
Well, we could do January 2nd.
Yeah.
Yep, that'd be fine. That works.
So you want this due back in the office?
Then we can measure results as, and make this one of the last items we've got on our budget hearings. We can take a good decision from us, hopefully back to town meeting, and let them act on it. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Do you have any changes to any of the questions or anything?
You may look at the questions on the page 2 and see if there's any changes you'd like to see made there.
No.
Okay. Now, the numbers I gave as good as I could sort of come up with.
Yep. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept this survey for Town of Newfane Recycling, and that we send it out as soon as possible to our residents, and that we would like it to be returned as of what we said today by January 2nd, 2018.
Now, this is for local residents, right?
That's correct.
Yes, all
Any,
right.
well, any taxpayer,
Yep.
I would assume.
Taxpayer?
Yeah, because some of the options will be hitting their tax bills too, so.
So this would go to property owners and taxpayers, or?
Well, I mean, I guess. Really,
Well,
it's
if it's
gonna go
gonna,
to
if
anybody
it's in
who
your
picks one up.
taxes, if it's based on.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. I would think anyone who pays taxes would have a say, because some of them will come out of their tax bill as well as a voter's
Your
tax bill.
meeting Can you think of any groups that are not property owners that are also taxpayers?
Nope, none. Well, renters, I suppose.
But they're not taxpayers, are they?
That's what I mean. They're voters, but not
It would
taxpayers.
still be
But,
included in, that's part of the thing is whoever owned the house they rented from would still offer that. The whole thing with this Westminster thing, that's only based on one bag a week.
right.
So I mean, if you got a household that's eating up 2 or 3 bags of garbage a week, it's additional cost
It
of
is.
200.
Yep.
And they
And then the 200 doesn't include the businesses either, they've all got their own dumpsters and
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
I mean, they just throw out a number like that, it shows the base price. They're not telling you the whole real picture. I mean, that Westminster is a lot more than 200 grand a year to do the garbage.
Right. So I think what I'll do is add that to the third column and just say that includes 52 bags a year. Everything else is extra, just so that they're getting the most accurate information.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
would it be likely that we'd want to add a question that says, how many people are in your household?
I don't think so. Do we
Okay.
need to know that?
It helps us then sort of estimate then what the cost would be.
Well,
if we had
it'd be a
that
certain
information.
size bag they use.
Yep.
I mean, and everything else. I mean, you look at the guys when they're picking up the garbage, there's usually 2 or 3 cans out there and all this. I mean, it's a lot more than that one little trash bag that they. That's what I
Sydney
say.
says that I throw out more garbage every week than the whole town, more than the whole town. And I mean, we're just 2 people, but I
People,
throw
as I said,
everything out,
you
so
take
I
a
don't know.
family, you know, a family of 4 or 5, you know, they create some garbage.
Yeah, they do. Yep.
As I say, they give you one little bag, and I'm sure it's not one of them big hefty bags either.
Yeah,
Would this option also include, though, composting? So
no,
there'd be a compost container, so you separate your food items from the items that are actually thrown away.
I don't think that they were considering compost, didn't,
We weren't required to.
Johanna-
We weren't required to, but if we did separate out and took composting one way and then recyclables the other, so you're only left with those things which you can't recycle, that bag of garbage becomes a lot more manageable. I read a story about a family out in California several years ago. They had like 5 or 6 kids, and they consciously recycled, composted, returned, whatever, everything that they could. And they ended up at the end of the year, a handful of items that they could not find a home for or not get rid of. And those were the lead foils that went on wine bottles. Everything else they found a home for. So if you really work at it, you can do it. But then again, how many people want to spend their days sorting garbage in their own home?
Shannon.
Besides Mary.
No. It's not required that we collect compost.
No, it will not be.
No.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
not required.
Right.
I thought there was something supposed to do too, but.
I
I
thought
thought
next
in the
year.
future,
Right.
but not now.
It
Is
will
my
be
understanding.
required that people compost, but the town will not be required to collect it.
Right.
That would be something a carrier might want to offer.
Right.
But we're not required, if we did it as a municipality, that we wouldn't be required to do that.
So when they mandate composting, and if town goes into the garbage business and the recycling and all that, where's the people take their compost to?
Well, I can tell you what they started in New York City a few years ago, which I'm amazed. This is way since I've been up here. The city supplied each household with a plastic container about this size for composting. And they pick it up, I think on a weekly basis.
As I said, they picked it up.
They pick it
But
up.
Shannon says the town doesn't
No,
have
so
it.
then I don't know how people would do that.
Most people around here keep it because it's worth money. We keep ours because we have a garden and we're not gonna pay somebody for compost when we can do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So we do it ourselves. Most of the people that live near us do it ourselves.
Yeah.
As long as you don't have food scraps and compost in your garbage,
Mhm.
that's what they're trying to avoid.
Yeah, but I mean, more than likely, probably the people that, there's probably 75% of the people that wouldn't compost at their home.
Right.
And, but it's gonna be mandated in so many more years.
Right. And Wyndham
And right now,
Solid
the
Waste,
garbage guys have to take it, right?
nope, they won't have to take it. It's just people have to compost, but they haven't really mandated how they have to do it. They just can't put food scraps in the garbage. Wyndham Solid Waste is planning on collecting it because they're making money off of it. So it will.
They collect it now.
They do now, and they'll continue to collect it.
And what a joy it is in July and August.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Hildene up in Manchester will teach you how to hot compost. And maybe they would do a course in town that we could show people.
Well, I know how to
hot
compost, I see people do it, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I still believe
Well, hot compost is
75%
different.
of the people aren't gonna do it like that, you know, that,
Right.
you know, they're not gonna do it.
Right, right.
Like Kenny and them, if they, when they open the restaurants, they're gonna have a compost pile out back,
I
or,
don't think so.
right, because then that's a health issue too.
Wyndham Solid Waste also will come to towns and put on workshops for people,
Okay.
composting workshops.
That would
So,
be interesting.
That might be an option
I
too
mean,
as
there
we
are
get
also people
closer.
who live in apartments who are not doing, you know, who don't have their own gardens. And we have to find out what we can offer for them.
So we have a motion. We got a second? You got a second in your motion? That we send this out ASAP with return by January 2nd.
Oh, I did make the motion.
Yep, got it. Any further discussion?
Well, Shannon said there's still, you said you're still going to add something in one of the boxes?
Yeah, in the third column, I'm just gonna add, just the piece of information that Mike shared about the, Westminster's. method.
So I'm still
Okay.
not 100% clear. Are we are going to spend money to mail this to each and every
I don't think we
citizen?
need to spend money. I think between putting it on
We're
front
just
porch
gonna put
forum
it,
and with a link to SurveyMonkey and, you know, handing them out and
Oh, okay.
telling people
So-
to come and get them, I don't think we're gonna need to actually spend
Okay.
money.
but
But it
here's
would-
my concern with that. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I remember when I first joined Select Board, we were saying that whatever we do online, it still has to be done in paper for people who don't use computers. So if you really want a complete survey, we have to somehow make sure that each and every resident gets one.
I mean, you could, it's a big expense, but you could.
No, and
Well, you said that planning just did that.
They did.
They
and
did a
They
paper
put them
survey.
around at different businesses. They put them in the post offices for people to pick up.
Is
You know,
it
I know a
possible
couple of
to-
them were hand delivered to people that just couldn't get out, so.
is there a way we could get a copy sent to the Commons, for example? Or have a little article and say that,
About it, sure,
yeah,
yeah.
does that work? I mean, it might help,
Yeah.
because a lot of people do read the Commons. I don't know how much it costs for the Commons, and I think it's probably more for the Reformer, but I'm
Yeah,
not
it
sure.
is. Yeah, I'll give them a call.
It probably would be better to direct them onto the website to get or to SurveyMonkey, to find it and to actually do the survey online and get it back in, rather than trying to put it into the newspaper, because most people are not gonna cut it out of the newspaper and send it.
No, I don't mean that. Or maybe just have an article
Yeah,
in the newspaper saying where they can go, but that it's important that we get as many people to respond as possible.
that'd be fine. Anything else?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
400. It passes. Now, the administrative assistant job description. What I did was I took Shannon's copy. I took what I could find from the 2012 copy, and I took what Carol had marked up, and I merged the two of them, plus added things that we would like to have and cleaned up some of the language. So that's what you have in front of you. We can read it aloud and discuss it line item by line item, or we can let you read it and see what changes you want to make. Mark it up right now and vote it, get it out of here. It's one of those things that if it doesn't need to be wordsmithed, leave it alone. If something jumps out as being absolutely wrong, or then we'll deal with it.
But you said, you're saying that this is a new job description that's that you combined.
That's correct.
A few others.
That
So
was-
I don't know if we have to, first of all, I don't think we need to read it aloud right now, unless you want to.
Well, I would suggest we take a quick look at the items which make up the major job duties, to see if any of those jump out at Shannon or any of us as being things that are either A, not appropriate, or B, not something we want to do. We know, of course, that the administrative assistant, we expect them to prepare and post warnings of regular and special meeting agendas, minutes, legal notices, and warrants at the approved locations in Newfane, on the town website, and in other places and via other means as directed by the select board in a timely manner as required by Vermont's open meeting law, and to ensure the widest dissemination of information to the public.
Fine.
Assist and provide input to the select board policy and decision-making by identifying problems and opportunities, analyzing options, and offering recommendations to the select board. As directed by the select board, represent interests of the town before local, regional, state, and federal officials, community leaders, town employees, and the general public, and coordinate meetings with the public and other governmental and quasi-governmental bodies. Jump in anytime you have things also, Shannon. At the request of the select board, process petitions and arrange for hearings, and alert the select board of any timing, legal, and procedural requirements relative to these issues, or to those issues. Be fully informed and knowledgeable of the town's policies, ordinances, and plans, and their implementation. Recommend updates and revisions to the select board as appropriate. Assist all department heads in the preparation of their annual budgets in accordance with any guidelines set by the select board, and submit them to the select board for the development of the town's annual budget. There's a period there that shouldn't be there. Draft and prepare annual town report, and after select board approval, request bids and coordinate with printer for publication. Manage distribution of annual town report, including in coordination with the town clerk, placing the town report and other relevant documents on the town's website. Assemble and prepare support materials for the board, including financial reports from the town treasurer, reports from the delinquent tax collector, the grand list, and any other documents the board may require to properly carry out the work of the town. In conjunction with the town treasurer, prepare budget status reports, revenue and expenditures on a monthly basis for the select board's review. Assist all departments in research and preparation for application for grant and aid from state, federal, and other agencies to assist in the administration of grants received by the town of Newfane. Wait a minute. As directed by the select board. Oversee inventory of parts and supplies, order parts and supplies following guidelines established by the select board in their purchasing policy. When required, prepare and distribute bid documents and communications, receive and log responses, protect received bids, and prepare bids for opening by the town's appointed fiduciary agent. prepare bid awards and inform successful bidders of the conditions of the award in accordance with the state's purchasing policies, assist other departments in the purchasing process to ensure a fair and appropriate purchasing program at all levels. Now, this is very important. This goes right to the heart of one of the things that is very important for all of us, to make sure that we offer the opportunity for organizations, companies to bid on doing business with the town, that those are properly communicated and that they are received and logged, and that they are protected prior to their opening. They are opened appropriately by the town's appointed agent, and then the awards are prepared and the bidders informed of the condition of award in accordance with the state policies. This may be one of the most important things that Shannon does, simply because it involves money, and a lot of it.
And I think that's been going along very well.
Okay? Do you have any?
In terms of the order in which this has to be done.
Yep,
And the notifications on that.
yep. Shannon, do you have anything on number 10 to add or comment? Okay. Upon request, provide public information to the media or arrange for media to speak with appropriate town officials when appropriate. 2 periods. Administer all town insurance policies, including but not limited to review of current coverage, implementing necessary changes and recommended changes, and implementation of such changes when required by changes in state and federal law. Inform the select board of all areas of increased liability and risk as policies are prepared for renewal. Yeah, I don't think any of us want to sit and read insurance policies.
No.
But we do need to know when our liability and our risk changes, and be made aware of those, especially if it's time for renewal, that it might impact our premium. That we can make either appropriate changes or decide to do or not to do something relative to those policies.
And again, I must say that I think Shannon does a very thorough job when we've been going over the health insurance policies during budget time in the last few years.
Yep.
So that's something that's been taken care of very well.
Communicate with regional, state, and federal officials on behalf of the select board and inform the select board of relevant changes in policies and laws that will affect the town. This keeps our considerable tookuses out of the swamp, and it's a major part of what Shannon does for us on a regular basis.
Could you translate that word into
What
English
tookus?
for all those people who might not know what you're saying?
Well, the last part that goes over the fence.
I could probably say it better, but.
Oh, no, we're gonna get another team. Pursue questions of a legal nature with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns or the town's attorney as directed by the select board. Be informed of any legal proceeding, question, or cases that currently affect or involve the town. Ensure that the select board is kept informed on all potential legal proceedings. Perform the vital public relations function of the town in dealing with complaints, criticisms, and suggestions of citizens, taxpayers, and businesses, ensuring the select board is kept apprised of all such communication. On behalf of the select board, serve as designated employee representative and oversee the random drug testing program for town employees with commercial driver license CDLs. Develop and maintain sound and efficient office management procedures, including compiling and updating a procedural manual, and develop and maintain a resource library of town policies, rules, guidelines, meeting agendas, actions of the board, and meeting minutes. In coordination with the town clerk, ensure that these and other relevant documents are included and maintained in the town's secure archives and on the town's website. Investigate and recommend to the select board methods of improving cost control and containment and increasing efficiency of town services. Institute such methods as approved by the select board, as directed by the select board, and negotiate and manage contract. Coordinate with the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources for continued custodial care status of the closed landfill. That's a fun job. Coordinate emergency road and infrastructure repairs prepare all required documents, maintain and manage all emergency fund, develop goals and objectives on an annual basis for the administrative assistant, and assist the select board in the development and achievement of their goals and objectives. Perform any other administrative duties that are deemed necessary by the select board.
Oh, let's see. We haven't had enough for her to do.
No, right, go ahead. And also shop at Hanover's. So there are a lot of items on here, but it does break down in a lot of excruciating detail the job that Shannon does. And it shows, number one, how important the administrative assistant is to the select board and to this town. And also identifies the boots that someone else would have to step into if they were going to undertake that same role, and gives us a mechanism to work with Shannon to make sure she gets an annual review of these functions and what needs to change as time goes on. Because these items will change from time to time. The items which are on the last pages are the boilerplate for the qualifications. We sort of dumbed those down a little bit. That we'd like to see the person be a graduate of a college or university, a
Is that
recognized.
necessary though? Why would that be necessary if they're qualified to do the job? Why would they have to? There's a lot of people who don't have college education.
Well, we speak to that because to do what Shannon does, it does require some special training in public administration, paralegal work, etc. Because she has to do a lot of research into the law and maintaining the calendar of what has to happen in certain timing, and all these things require a background in that chosen field to know how government works. But if you'll notice, in lieu of the above, vocational work experiences in the area of town government management, finance, or knowledge of procedures of local, state, and federal governments, and familiarity and experience with Vermont state statutes, or the willingness to learn. So if we can't find an individual, or we don't have an individual available to us with those necessary education, we can work with someone who has vocational background in working for town government.
Well, then I have a question. Are you saying that, when you said if we don't have somebody with that, are you saying that anybody who, if we had a group of people who applied, the person who had a college degree would be number one on the list, no matter what experience they would
No.
have? No, because, as Mike was saying, that as long as the person is qualified and has had experience and is able to do what we are saying is a job, fulfilling job description, whether or not they have a college degree,
Right.
they could
Right.
be accepted.
It would be difficult to do this job, not only because of the nature of the work, but also the relationships that have to be maintained without the ability to work with people at the college or university level. But if we don't have that person, we can also work with a person who is trained and has experience, maybe previous experience working for another town and doing the same job. The idea is not to limit someone who has good skills. It's to make sure that we get a person who can do the job. And we don't care whether they have the education, as long as they've got the experience, we can consider them. The skills: possess computer knowledge and experience working with word processing, spreadsheets, publishing, presentation, GIS, and land use information tools. Fluency in the use of the internet as a research tool, especially the ability to research federal, state, and Vermont statutes and legislative processes, including VLCT and NIMRIC. Because you're our primary representative to NIMRIC. Okay. Possess excellent interpersonal and communication skills, both oral and written. Good organization, record-keeping skills, ability to work independently and interact with the public in a positive manner. It's a 40-hour-per-week job. Pay is commensurate with experience. For the purpose of the Fair Labor Standards Act, which we have talked about time and time again, this position is considered an exempt, full-time, salaried administrative position Benefits are accrued as defined in the town of Newfane's personnel policy. So what I did was to put to bed what this role is in terms of the exempt. I went directly to the FLSA website and downloaded the whole definition and read through it. And the exempt position is based on the amount of pay. It's based on the duties test, and it's based on the role of the individual. So all of these things need to be spelled out. Full-time, it has to be a salaried, full-time salaried position, and then it has to be an administrative position, because that's what the definition of the job that Shannon does is defined as under the FLSA. That keeps us out of trouble.
May I see that one?
Sure. This calls for a new employee, a probationary period of 6 months of full-time employment. 30 days prior to the end of that period, they would receive a written review on the select board. Constraints, and maybe that's not the best word to use, but the administrative assistant is hired by the select board and shall not simultaneously hold an elected or appointed position in a municipal office in the town of Newfane. This position is subject to the Newfane personnel policies. All terms of employment and benefits, including vacation time, sick time, holidays, personnel time, medical insurance, and deemer's retirement, are outlined in the personnel policy. Compensation is reviewed annually and is based on satisfactory job performance. Job performance review evaluation will be conducted annually by members of the select board, and the administrative assistant will be afforded the opportunity to participate in the review and evaluation. Did we leave anything out? Have we drowned you?
No.
Okay.
I make a motion with a second.
I second.
We have a motion to accept and a second from Marion. Motion was from Mike. Any further discussion?
Very good.
Then being, let's proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it passes 4-0. Now, the subject of the performance review, which started us on this quite some time ago. Obviously, we're putting a lot of new information in front of Shannon, which we have to sign off, and she needs to sign off on to say that she's willing to do these things. Then we need to wait a period of time and then give her her annual review, and that will catch everybody up and Shannon up too. It would not be fair to Shannon if we just did a review now. And Mary and I have talked about this because we were working on this. Because it would be a review based on something that didn't exist or we didn't have a copy of. So it'd be better for us to allow Shannon to work and to work on this and let this sort of wash out over the next few months, and then we give her a real review, objective review, based on this job description. One of the most important things in here, at least for me, was that Shannon will set goals and objectives for herself, and we've already talked about one of those, which is the library and the policy manual, and library of all the town's policies, goals, all of our rulings and things like that, so that it's available to the public and protected. And that also, she's to help us develop our goals and objectives as a select board that we should be running against every year, so we can actually achieve things, long-term things, on behalf of the town. Now, the town plan is coming up this next town meeting. And that will give us a plan to work against, and from that we can derive goals and objectives, which are things that we can actually put into place to begin to achieve things, longer term things, on behalf of the town. And Shannon's job will be also to every quarter or so say, where the hell are you on this? And make sure that we're doing that. Next item, budget meetings.
Thank you, by the way, for compiling all of that.
Oh, you're
I'm
welcome.
reading it and you're losing your voice.
Not quick enough. All right, so the 11th?
Budget meeting,
Yeah.
right.
I guess doing it on Christmas Day would not be a good thing.
No,
I think it's a hell of a good day.
After dinner, we get a lot done.
Nobody play with it.
Anytime during the week of the 18th, which would be, our next meeting would be on the 18th. Anytime during that week?
what do you mean?
Monday night, but Tuesday.
Oh, to have another meeting? A
Yeah.
budget meeting that week?
Is that the 4th Tuesday?
So when you out of here?
I'm leaving the 15th, but I'll be on the phone or via Skype into any time we're meeting, so that's not a problem. As long as I've got materials in front of me, I'll be able to keep going. So if we did it on Tuesday, that'd be the 4th Tuesday of the month. That'd be planning.
That's the only night I can't do.
Oh, you can't do, okay,
Right. I can do all other.
okay.
I could do Wednesday the 20th. Or Thursday the 20th.
Could you do the 20th?
We need you, Grace.
Could you do the 20th?
I don't know. I got a Christmas party coming up. I don't know what date it is.
Okay.
Do you want to find out? Will you tell us by the 11th? Are you coming next week on the 11th?
Yeah, I'll come.
And we need, even if you don't want.
Providing, okay,
Yeah,
providing there's no snowstorm. If there's a snowstorm, you won't see me on anything.
Okay,
all right,
I have my own business. And
we're not
That's-
having snow this year.
that's fair. But we do need quorums. And we need to try to make sure that all of us are here one way or the other to get this done. And we really do have to get it done. So we're gonna shoot for the 20th.
Okay.
The 11th first, right?
The 11th will be the next one.
On the Thursday, the 21st?
20th.
20th,
Wednesday's
but
the
you
20th.
just said,
No, the 11th is the first one, I said.
yeah.
Right.
Oh. So
Shannon,
budget meeting,
How many more meetings do you think we need?
I think we could do it in 3.
Okay.
I mean, I think what Chris said, that we have the forms that you give us every year and the budget lines. I think we could do it in 3 if we just focus.
we used to do it
Yeah.
when I was on the board before. Had the right forms, everything.
I mean, I've got it all drafted, really.
Do you want to lead the budget meeting? The two of you?
Yeah, we're gonna have, is Jay coming to some of them too?
Anything to do with the roads, Jay should be here.
Oh, of course.
Okay,
Because he's got some concern over, I know,
Good
with the
idea.
capital on the equipment.
very good idea.
Because you don't think it's been.
But we have to know.
Shannon, can you ask Jay if he can be in the meetings? Thank you.
So the first meeting in January will be January 1st. I doubt that any of us will be showing up for a meeting on January 1st.
Miss that one.
Yeah, usually will be at your party. Next date would be probably the 8th,
I don't have my date book yet.
okay, or sometime later in the week on the first week of January, move the meeting to another date.
Let's worry about the 11th and the
Right.
20th. and we'll
Let's
decide.
do those
Let's
two
do
and
one
then
week
figure
at
it
a
out
time,
That's fine.
after that.
please.
See how we come.
All right, so we got the 11th and the 20th. Right. Correspondence?
Gary?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I realize I missed the public comment.
That's
period,
okay.
But I wanted to put in my 2 cents, because I didn't get to, I think the survey about trash and recycling had finished by the time I got to it. So I would like to say that I have heard that there's a bunch of ideas about what to do in terms of trash and recycling. And I would really, the idea that I think would be the most beneficial to our town is to have a transfer station here. And the reason is I know it would cost a little bit more than having a service that the town provides trash pickup service. But I think the idea of employing someone in this town for a transfer station would be really wonderful. I also think that a transfer station is a community hub, and I think that would be lovely to have in our town. And thinking about, I was looking at the comments that were on Front Porch Forum, and people were talking about declining residency in this town, but if we were to have a transfer station, someone that has a young family like mine, that would be a draw. I also think that if we were to have a transfer station here, and I don't know how it would work logistically with other towns, but if it's something that the town provides for, but then other people from other towns could then purchase the right to use the transfer station, I think that would be a lovely thing. I know that transfer stations in the town that I come from is called the Warner Mall, where there's a take it or leave it. There's places for donations for the library if people want to donate books to the library or to the Historical Society. I know that Northfield, Massachusetts has a tool lending library at their transfer station. So I think having one more place that could be a community hub would be very helpful.
Great. We got a survey for you to fill out.
Yes, I missed that survey. I couldn't find it on the.
No,
No, it
nobody's
hasn't gone
done
out
it
yet.
yet.
Oh, it hasn't gone out yet. Oh, okay.
But it's
Great.
going to be out in
Okay.
just the next few days. And
Okay.
we would really appreciate your feedback on that
Okay.
so that we can measure it and then come up with some good solutions. It's a difficult problem for us.
Oh, it is.
We
Yeah.
struggle with it now for well over a year. And it's not an easy job. It's not an easy solution. People don't want to pay more in taxes. And oftentimes they're inalterably opposed to hiring a new person. But something's going to have to give. And so we've got to hear from people about what it is that they would like to see. And we can then go about budgeting for that and recommending its implementation at town meeting.
Can you tell us your name? Or
Oh, sure. My name is Fiona Creed Chevalier, and I live at 198 Timpson Hill.
Great.
198 Timpson. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
Correspondence. We have the VLCT dues. I'm going to pass this around and see if there's any items that you're interested in attending coming up. There's a lot of good stuff. But it is the winter, and as is often the problem, they are held up in Montpelier. So take a look. Okay, so this is regarding the letter from Maureen regarding the tree. I'm requesting that the town of Newfane Selectboard consider taking down the huge pine tree on Dover Road in between my house and Christine Ear's house. It is in the highway's right-of-way. For years now, large branches have been falling in the road and in our yards. My insurance company has told me it's a hazard to my home and very dangerous. A few years ago, another huge branch of the tree fell down my porch, barn, and car. The town had to take the rest of that tree down. I don't want to see it happen again. There's a smaller tree growing into this tree and weakening the huge pine. Therefore, I would appreciate having it removed. And that's from Maureen Albert, Piasek, Piasek, and that's on Dover Road.
That's in the right of way.
I'm just waiting for VLCT to get back to me on how that works.
We also have a letter from Peter Novick, and following up on his last meeting. And because my voice is gently dribbling away, I'm going to ask Miriam to read it.
Okay. It's Peter Novak addressing the town of Newfane. Thank you for the opportunity to make a presentation to the Newfane Select Board on November 20th regarding the damage to Adams Hill Road in the vicinity of Toby Hill Road. During that meeting, you requested I send you the chart listing the recommended culvert improvements, and I have attached that to this letter. As I stated, my regular select board meeting presentation on November 20th, the root cause of the damage to this section of Adams Hill Road was culverts number 1 and number 2, as shown in the attached list, were not of sufficient size to handle the volume and velocity of water flow as a result of the brief but intense rainstorm of October 22nd. This is not anyone's fault. These culverts work well in the spring thaw. They work well during a typical 3-day rainstorm in early summer, and they work well during a rapidly moving thunderstorm in late August. However, they were never designed to handle the volume and velocity of water from a storm as we experienced on October 29th. Subsequently, the town of Newfane made timely repairs to this section of Adams Hill Road, but those repairs did little more than restore the status quo ante of October 28th and did not correct the root cause of the damage. As our climate changes, the town of Newfane must change its approach to risk mitigation and make improvements to address these new and violent storms. Additionally, it is my intention to channel the main water flow from the north side of the Daniels Hill to culvert number 4, and I recommend that the town of Newfane replace the existing culvert as shown in the attached chart with a larger one which could adequately handle the flow of water from a storm of similar duration and intensity as the October 29th storm. Further, I invite members of the Select Board, the Road Commissioner, and the Road Foreman to conduct a site visit with me in the near future, during which we can discuss these recommended improvements and why they are critical for the safety and security of residents and visitors, as well as for public safety emergency responders. Finally, per the Vermont Open Meeting Law, I request you read this cover letter into the public record during the open session of the next regular Select Board meeting from the date of this letter. Sincerely, Peter Novak. And he has recommended upgrades.
I believe this is the same list he gave us at the last meeting. The changes that he's talking about making on his own, are those on?
That's putting more water onto the town road, what it boils down to. He's changing the watershed up on that road and put more down onto the town road.
So we should do the site visit with him and explain that the changes he wishes to make will also impact the town's roads.
I think we already left it that Jay was gonna go, just
Okay.
take a look at what he had suggested.
Okay. I'm
So maybe
sure.
if nothing
Because I
else-
asked him at that meeting if they had changed the water up there on the hill. I think he said yes. Well, according to that letter.
Okay.
I mean, I guess probably Chris wants to just remind Jay, if he has
Yeah.
forgot, because he's been kind of busy anyway, so.
Shannon, can you make a copy maybe and give this to Jay? And that would be great. Thank you.
And here's Maureen's letter also.
I'll talk to Jay.
Okay.
I'll see him tomorrow morning, probably.
Thank you, Chris. All right, we completed correspondence, which brings us to the time of evening when we get to do pay order.
How lucky.
I'll do it
Well,
with
it's-
somebody.
It's
You wanna
Christmas
go?
shopping time.
Mike, or do you want to do
I'll
it?
do it.
No, you, don't you want to go home? Are you-